All right, so if you're like me, you may find yourself frustrated with the modern world, not because you don't have access to information, but because you have access to information and false information. My mom loves Google and thinks it's wonderful because she remembers when it was so hard to find information, but I kind of hate it because mixed in with the correct answer is 1,000 wrong answers. Anyway, philosophy aside, I want to show the difference between a primer bulb and a purge bulb. So prime the pump, that's a phrase that's been around for a long time. And you could refer to priming as just the process of getting something started. And in that sense, these are both primer bulbs. But you sometimes also hear the word purge bulb. And so I want to show you the differences and explain to you how these can be used differently. Okay, this is the sort of carburetor that you're going to find on chainsaws, weed whackers, leaf blowers, those kinds of things. And when you push this bulb, you send fuel out of this port and you pull fuel into this port. And we use the word purge because you're eliminating any air in the system. That's why it starts soft and becomes harder and harder because more and more air goes out and more fuel comes in. And so in preparation for starting a machine with this, you can push that bulb 1,000 times. Probably after the 4th time, it won't do anything helpful, but you can push it as many times as you want and it won't affect the way that the engine starts. This is a primer bulb. And if you push this more than the correct amount of times, then you will flood the engine with fuel. And the reason is because you're not purging air out of the system when you do this. You are squirting a small amount of fuel into the throat of the carburetor. And so I'm going to lower you down. Oops, too much. I'll lower you down so you can see that. So when I push the bulb, there you go, you can see it shoot. You can see it shoot out. So that's why you need to do it 3 times and not 1,000 times. If you do it 1,000 times, you're going to flood the engine. If you do this 1,000 times, all you're going to do is waste your time after the 3rd or the 5th push. So this is what we typically call a purge bulb. You are purging air out of the fuel system. This is typically what we call a primer bulb because you are squirting fuel into the system. And this is also a setup that doesn't have a choke. So that's another little feature. This has a choke. And if you have a purge bulb that doesn't do any priming, then you typically need a choke. If you have a primer bulb that shoots fuel into the into the engine or into the intake, then sometimes you can get away without a choke. And in this case, you have no choke. So that's the difference. You will find all sorts of people, smart and dumb, misusing and interchanging those terms. I'm guilty, I've done the same. And the difference is really a nuance. But they are both bulbs that help you prime the engine. And so although they are both primer bulbs, this is a purge bulb, that's a primer bulb. That's the difference. And I hope I made a small contribution to the internet disinformation world, not by telling you what I know, but by showing you what I know. All right, if you didn't like that, give it a thumbs down. Go check out, you know who, Steve Small Engine Saloon. Take care, folks.